Today is April 16th, 2021. My name is Isabel Christine Beleg, and I'm interviewing Olga Navedo today at the University of Nebraska, Omaha for the Conversaciones Oral History Project, Voces of a Pandemic Project at the Office of Latino and Latin American Studies and Chris Library at UNO. This project is in partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Olga Navedo, that this interview will be placed in the University of Nebraska at Omaha, CC and Mabel L. Chris Library, and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there's anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there's something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. Because we're not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say, yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each one. There are several questions we need to make sure you agree to before we go on. So the Office of Latino and Latin American Studies and Chris Library wishes to archive your interview along with any other photographs or documentation at the University of Nebraska at Omaha, Dr. CC and Mabel L. Chris Library. UNO's Chris Library will retain copyright of the interview and other materials you donate to the Office of Latino and Latin American Studies at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Question number 1. Do you give the Office of Latino and Latin American Studies consent to archive your interview and your materials at the UNO Chris Library?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. The question number 2. Do you grant UNO's Chris Library the right, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. Number 3. Do you agree to allow UNO's Chris Library to post the interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. Question number 4. Do you grant the Office of Latino and Latin American Studies consent to share your interview and your materials with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voces of a Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Olga. And then we have many questions in a pre-interview form that we have already filled out. We use that information for the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sends it to the Benson Library and Chris Library, we would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members, so that will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at the Benson Library and Chris Library. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at the Benson?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. And finally, question 6. On occasion, the Office of Latino and Latin American Studies and Voces receive requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone numbers or your email with journalists?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Thank you. So that was the pre-interview form, Olga. Now we're going to move on to the survey, which is the pre-interview survey, which is where we're going to ask all these demographic questions. And as I've said to you, Olga, if you don't want to answer things related to your family or things that are personal, please tell me. That's totally fine. And, you know, a lot of people don't want to. So, do you consider yourself, first of all, an essential worker?
No.
Have you had COVID?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been interviewed before for this interview or for this project? No. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, where are you currently, Olga? In Omaha, right?
Yes. In my home.
And what is the zip code of where you live?
68164.
And some of these questions are going to ask many times the zip code. So 68164.
Mhm.
I'm just going to write it down because they ask a lot of times. Okay. Okay, what is your legal first name?
Olga C. Navedo.
Your middle name is C.
Well, my middle name is Carmen. Then
Okay.
Carmen.
Okay, Carmen. What is your cell phone number? And this is again just for us.
402
Uh-huh.
968
968
7951.
7951. Okay. All right. And your email address?
It's olga.navedo@gmail.com.
So I'm gonna write this down again because
I mean, that's my personal email. I didn't give you my work email unless you want that. It's up to you.
yeah, let's put your work email.
Okay, so it's onavedo
Mhm.
at bbbsomaha.org.
BBBS Omaha.
.org.
Okay, great. Okay, do you wish to share your home address or we can skip it?
Sure, it's 12834 Grant Circle in Omaha.
68164.
Mhm. And I apologize if my dog barks.
No problem. I have a dog
Okay.
too. I totally understand. What kind of dog is it?
She's a cockalier, so half Cavalier, half Cocker Spaniel.
Oh, they're so cute. They're so
Yeah.
cute. I have a golden retriever.
Oh, I used to have one.
They're
My
so
first
cute.
dog was a golden retriever,
They're adorable, all of them.
and then we lost our golden retriever mix last May. It was only 11.
That's a long life for a golden, though.
I know, but we had our first golden for 14, and then we
Aw.
had a yellow lab after that. Well, at the same time, overlapping for 14. So it was really, I thought that I would have Lou for longer, and I got him when he was 6, and he came bonded to an 11-year-old black lab mix who died 6 months after we got her from liver cancer.
Oh,
So
that's so, yeah.
it's just I get too attached to my
I'm
dog.
very attached to my dog too, so no worries if they bark. It
Okay.
adds happiness. How would you identify your sexual orientation? Straight, gay, bisexual,
Straight.
straight. Your ethnicity?
Um,
Hispanic?
Hispanic, yeah.
Hispanic. Okay. Okay, so there's more questions here. Okay, so contact information in your family. Who would you like for it to be? If there's like an emergency or something where we need to contact somebody in your family, who do you want to put?
My husband,
Okay.
his name is Clark Anderson.
Okay, so husband. Okay. Clark
Anderson.
Anderson. And same address, right?
Yep.
So that was what again? Sorry.
12834 Grant Circle.
And for his phone number, we put, what do we put?
Excuse me, 402
Mm-hmm.
880
Yeah.
8971
And his email?
is clark.r.anderson
Mm-hmm.
at gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. Okay. How'd you hear about this interview?
I got an email
From
from
Christian?
Chris.
Yeah.
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 I don't know who he got, he probably got my name from Troy, maybe. I don't know. Troy Romero.
Oh, possibly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just to fill out all this. And your email one more time, your work email, Olga, please.
Is O Navedo at BBBSomaha.org.
Do you have a work phone number?
Yeah,
What is it?
it's 402
Mm-hmm.
905
Mm-hmm.
3340.
Thank you. Okay. Is there another contact person that you'd like to list besides your husband?
Do you need one? I mean, I can give you my sister's.
Okay. Yeah, they need a second one.
Okay.
Okay. What's her name?
Carmen Gigrich, Gigrich.
Igrich. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And same address as you?
No, I'll have to look that up because I can never remember her address.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
And I know how to get there. I just don't know how to. I don't know what it is. It's 7106
Uh-huh.
South 78th Street.
Yeah.
That's La Vista, Nebraska,
Oh, yeah.
68128.
And her phone number?
It's 402
Mm-hmm.
850
Mm-hmm.
9904.
9904. Perfect. And her email?
Oh, okay.
We can if you don't have it, we can just put yours. It asks for an email. We can put yours again.
That's fine.
Okay. So Olga
No, O Navedo
Navedo at
at BBBSomaha.org.
one more time your work phone number. Sorry, it's asking it one more time. What is
That's
it?
okay. 402
Uh-huh.
905
Uh-huh.
3340.
Now I know your email by heart. It's onavedo at BBS
No, three
Omaha,
B's.
BBBS.
BBBS, Omaha.
I hope, do people get it right and read it wrong sometimes?
Sometimes. Sometimes
.org.
I forget the Omaha, sometimes I forget the org. It's just Big Brothers, Big Sisters Omaha, but just BBBS.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Legal first name, once again, it's Olga, right?
Mm-hmm.
Legal middle name, Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
And last name, Navedo. Have you
Us
ever
too old.
used another name? Have you ever
Nope.
used another name? No?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I was too old when I got married to change my name.
Okay. What is your birth date?
5/11/60,
5/11.
May 11th, 1960.
That's my mom's birthday. Not
It is?
60, but yeah, May 11th. And that's my wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a great date.
Yeah, May 11th. Yeah. City of birth?
Panama City, Panama.
Okay. Panama. So
At least that's what
interesting. I can't wait to hear about your story, how you ended up here. What is the highest level of school that you've received? Education.
I have my bachelor's degree.
Okay. Did you use a GI Bill?
No,
No.
not that old. No, just kidding.
What is the name of the school where you got your bachelor's from?
Bellevue University,
Oh yeah.
but back then it was called Bellevue College.
Bellevue. It's a private school, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
private school. And it's in Bellevue, Nebraska, or is it in Omaha?
No, it's in Bellevue.
From what year to what year did you attend?
I went from 1979 to 1983.
So you graduated in 83.
No, that's when I attended. I didn't end up getting my degree until 1989.
Oh, okay.
My mom got sick. She had cancer, so I kind of
Okay.
stopped a couple classes shy of getting my degree, and then after she passed away, I went back and finished.
Yeah, it's good that you finished. That's amazing. Where'd you go to high school?
Bellevue West.
Public, right? That's a public high
Yeah.
school.
Mm-hmm.
Also in Bellevue.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember the years that you attended?
I only attended 77, 78. I graduated in May of 78.
Did you get a certificate or high school?
Yeah, I got my diploma. The only reason why I only went 1 year is because that was the first year that the high school was open. So I was in the first graduating class of
The
Bellevue
cohort.
West.
So you
The year,
finished in 78.
yeah. The year before it was just Bellevue High. What's now Bellevue East was Bellevue High, which is only one.
Okay, so let's talk about your most recent job. So the job you're in right now. Your employer is Big
Big
Brother.
Brothers, Big Sisters of the Midlands.
Big Brother, Big Sisters of the Midlands. And what is your title?
I'm the Latino Mentoring Program Coordinator.
I worked a lot with Mentor, which is, I'm sure you're familiar with Mentor as an organization when I was in Boston,
Oh,
and with Big Brothers, Big Sisters also in Boston. So I'm familiar with a lot of what you do, but I can't wait to hear everything. So your most recent job description, how would you describe in a few words what you do?
well, in a few words, I engage with the Latino community in Omaha, and but in all kinds of different ways. Meaning that I do recruitment for bigs that speak Spanish. I enroll littles whose parents don't speak English. And I spread the word. I try to educate people on what Big Brothers Big Sisters is.
That's amazing. And before this position, did you have, what was your job before this job?
Before this job, I prefer not to think about it.
Okay, we can skip it.
I was only there a year. It was just not it was not a good fit for me. I had been the year I had been at another job for 4 years, and before that I had been at a job for 13 years. So I thought that at the job that I was at for 4 years, I was just fine. I went to this other place. I was recruited to go there. And then after a year, I knew that I was miserable. I hated it. That's
Okay.
not what I
We
want.
can, we're just gonna,
It was with TPG. I don't even know what the TPG stands for.
no, it's okay. Do you belong to any organizations besides Big Brother, Big Sister, like churches, clubs?
I belong to Nebraska Hispanic Chamber of Commerce
Okay.
as part of, because I am in, I go as a representative for my job. So is it something that you want separate from my job or as part of my job?
It could be both.
Okay. So I'm part of Nebraska Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm part of the Optimist Club.
Mhm.
I'm part of MILPA, which is the Metro Young Latino Professional Association, of which I'm the oldest member. I was on the board for 3 years. Now I'm just part of I'm a member.
So, okay. Uh, what about in the past? Are there any organizations that you were a member of or churches and you're no longer? Or clubs or
Mm, no, not that I can, I can't, not until I wasn't really involved in the community until I started this job.
okay. Okay. Um, have you received any awards or special awards for your job?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Did your family attend church when you were growing up?
On and off.
So yes or no?
I would say yes.
Yes. Okay. Would you say how often did you go to
Oh,
church?
well, we're Catholic, so you're supposed to go once a week. You definitely went on holy days of obligation, and which I don't know how many are there, 10.
Only on
Um,
special occasions, so you would say?
yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
probably just special occasions.
Okay. Do you remember the name of the church that you went to here in Omaha?
The last one that I attended,
Or when you were growing up?
I didn't, I didn't grow up in Omaha,
Okay.
so I mean, I've lived here for the last 40 some years, but growing up, my dad was in the Air Force, so we lived in lots of places,
Okay.
mostly not in Nebraska. I
Okay.
didn't come here till I was 16.
Okay. So we'll put NA because not applicable because yeah. Do you still practice the same religion from your childhood?
Yes. Do I go to church? No. Do I practice my religion? Yes.
Yes.
I'm a
Are you?
Catholic, but
Yeah.
I don't like the church.
Yeah. A lot of people share that sentiment. Are you involved in activism?
Yes.
What, have you been involved in political, social movements, BLM, Me Too?
Yeah, I mean, anything that's that we've had socially, like Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ. I guess I'm a member of PFLAG too. I forgot about that. Mostly anything that has to do with social justice.
Mhm.
Immigration issues, that kind of stuff.
Have you been involved in the 2020 protests last year?
Yes.
What was your political identity as a young adult? Democrat, Republican, Independent, or other?
Democrat.
And currently?
Democrat.
Mhm. Are you a veteran?
No.
Okay. So then there's questions about your dad and your mom, about their names and their date of birth. Do you wish to answer that, or we can skip that?
It's up to you. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay. So father's first name?
Héctor
Uh-huh. Navedo.
Mhm.
And
Figueroa.
that's your biological father?
Yes.
What was his date of birth?
It's 2/23/1935. February 23rd, 1935.
Okay. Where was he born?
San Lorenzo, Puerto Rico.
And his highest level of education?
He had a bachelor's degree.
Okay. Has he passed away?
Yes.
When did he pass away?
He passed away July 28th, 2005.
Okay. July 28, 2005. And where did he pass away?
In his home. Well, it's actually at my sister's house in La Vista.
Okay, in La Vista. Okay. Is your father a veteran?
Yes.
Yes. In the Army?
Air Force.
Air Force. Okay. Nice. Okay, now we're going to talk about your mom. What is your mom's first name?
Olga.
Okay.
Of course.
Of course. And her last name?
Her maiden name or her married name?
We can put both.
Okay. Her last name was Adames de Navedo.
She was your biological mother?
Yes.
Her date of birth?
Was September 30th, 1932.
Her place of birth?
Las Cruces, Panama.
Wow. Okay. Is that where they met?
No, they met in Panama City.
They met in Panama City. My parents met in Panama too. It's a really crazy story, but my parents met in Panama.
Really?
Yeah, my mom's Colombian, my dad's French, and I can tell you another time they met in Panama. Mothers, did your mom go to school? Highest level of education?
High school.
High school. Okay. When did she pass away?
She passed away on November 11th, 1988.
Oh yeah, you told me. It was when you were going back to school.
She would have come back and haunted me if I wouldn't have finished
your degree.
My degree, yeah.
And she passed away in La Vista too?
No, in Bellevue.
In Bellevue. Bellevue, Nebraska. Okay, so how many siblings do you have? How many brothers? Let's start with brothers.
None.
None. And sisters?
One.
No. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about your marriage now. Your husband, again, his name is Clark.
Mhm.
And
Anderson?
Anderson. That's his last name, right?
Yeah.
What's his date of birth?
Is July 1st, 1966.
Where was he born?
Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Mhm.
I take it he's not Latino, or he may be. I don't know.
No, he's
No.
not.
What was your marriage date?
Okay, so legally, it's December 23rd, 2016.
Okay.
But we've been together for 21 years.
Okay. And you got married where?
In Omaha.
What is his primary occupation?
Oh God, everybody. I don't know. I don't ever know what to say.
Okay.
He's like a IT guy.
Okay. Let's just put IT.
Yeah, there you go.
Did he serve in the military?
No.
Do you have any children?
No.
Okay. All right, we're done with the pre-interview. Now we can get to the fun part, which is actually the interview part. So let's take a deep breath and
Wait, first I want to know something. Where are you from in Colombia?
so my mom is from Medellin.
Really?
Yeah.
I've been there.
No way. Nice.
Yes.
Nice. And now they live in Barranquilla, my parents, which is a city by the water, right? Which is getting slammed by COVID. It's really bad. It's really bad right now what they're going through, but hopefully it'll get better. But yeah, and they met in Panama because my mom used to work in Panama, and a crazy story. But let's get to you.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you questions. Feel free to answer however you feel comfortable, but please try to share stories if you have stories that come to your mind about what I'm asking you.
Okay.
So the first one is like, tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you come from, how you got here, and who is Olga Navedo, basically.
I am an odd bird. That's the only way I can think to describe myself, because I am behind in everything. I've been that way all my life. I'm the last to do everything. I don't know why. I think it was that good Catholic upbringing, that Catholic guilt, that you needed to be a certain way and do certain things and act a certain way. So I was always late to the party on everything. I used to be kind of shy. Although my parents would tell you that I am not. I was born in Panama. My dad was in the Air Force. He met my mom through a friend of his that my dad liked to go to watch the horses run at the racetrack. So he met my mom's cousin there. They became friends. He brought him over to my mom, the house that my mom was living in, because her mother passed away when she was 3. And her father quickly remarried. They lived in the sticks in Panama somewhere. So they got married, they fell in love, got married, and then they had me. And my dad was in the Air Force, so either he figured out some kind of way to keep us either in Puerto Rico or in Panama most of my life until I was 12. And then when I was 12, we moved to Indiana. It was loaned out to the Air National Guard. We lived there for 4 years, and then We went to, then they transferred us to Nebraska. We were only supposed to be here for 2 months, 2 years. And then we were supposed to, my dad was going to retire and we were moving back to Indiana where we owned a house. And God had other plans. And the week before they were supposed to pick up our stuff, my mom was in a car accident and she was in the hospital for a month. So my dad ended up extending and 3 months. And then when he retired, we just stayed here. And it was always, we're not staying here, we're moving, blah, blah, blah. That never happened. They both died here.
Stayed here, you're still here.
I'm still here. I hated it here. I couldn't stand it here when I first got here. All my friends were in Indiana, my high school, everything I did was in Indiana. I loved it. It was the first time that I felt like I was independent. I didn't live, all my life I had lived on base, with the kids, all dads, parents all went to the same, worked at the same place, at the Air Force. The moms, did the same things. We all went to the same schools. It was, it wasn't like the Dick and Jane books that I used to read when I was little. There wasn't a house. We had a house, but it looked the same as everybody else's house. And so when we moved to Indiana and we were not on Air Force Base, it was different. It was like, we're in a neighborhood. This is what a neighborhood looks like. This is the school you go to. This is the car you do. It was all different. And I loved it. And then when they told me, and I thought, when we got here, I thought, well, I just have to hold on for 2 years, just 2 years. It'll go by. I'll be back in Indiana and I'll be fine. And then when that did not happen, I hated being here. But then I started making friends. I tried not to make friends those 2 years I was here because I didn't want to be attached to anybody because I knew that I was leaving. I just knew I was going back. And when that didn't happen, then I started making friends, and little by little, the friends that I made then are still my best friends now. So it was the right thing to do, I guess.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit. How did you first hear about COVID-19? Do you remember the first time you heard about this? Was it on the radio, on TV? Somebody told you about it?
No, it was on the news. After the idiot that is, sorry, and I apologize if you don't agree with my political view on this, but I cannot stand Donald Trump. I
Okay.
just cannot.
No, that's fine. You can say whatever you want. This is your interview.
The man is poison for people. Anyway, so that my family on my mom's side is always in Panama, has been very political. They had people in the House and their House of Representatives. They lived across the street from the president of Panama for a time. Everybody. So I guess it was only natural that my parents didn't encourage the political activism, but we were always aware of what was happening in the United States and in the world. That was important to my father, that we didn't burrow our head in the sand. So I watched the news every night and all the time. And then I kind of stopped. I kind of didn't do that later on, after college and stuff. I really kind of didn't do that very much until I got a little older, probably in my 40s. I started paying attention a little bit more, and then definitely when the 2016, prior to the 2016 elections, I definitely switched gears because I just wasn't believing what I was seeing. I just didn't get it.
So you heard about it on TV?
Yeah, I'm sure it was on the news, on CNN, I'm sure it was.
And at what point did you realize, Olga, that this was serious? Or did you not think it was serious?
No, I thought I think that when I saw, probably towards the end of January last year, when Dr. Fauci was on TV, because I felt like that he was somebody that was telling me the truth.
Mhm.
Because I knew that the president was not the one that was going to tell me the truth.
Mhm.
So I needed to find somebody whose voice I found to be truthful and to be knowledgeable about this. And when towards the end of January, middle of January, end of January, he wasn't perfect on everything, but he was dealing like a scientist. He was giving me the facts. He wasn't making stuff up because he felt so right here or right here. He he was telling us what we needed to know based on facts and
Right.
that they had at that moment.
Okay. Very good. So now let's talk about the daily impacts of COVID in your life. How has it affected your family members, those that live in the US? And also, you mentioned you have family in Panama. How has that affected your family members?
Here, um, my the first thing is my brother-in-law. Um, uh, it wasn't because of the COVID, but we were kind of kept away, my sister and I, because he got cancer
Mhm.
in late 2019, and had to have operation, then had to have chemo, and that happened right before the COVID hit, but right before March. And so we had already stayed away because we didn't want to make him sick. We didn't want to have a cold or God, just anything. And then as things started lighting up, so I didn't see my sister for several months, which is not normal for her and I. We're very close. Um, and So that, I mean, it was difficult. It was difficult. It was kind of scary because for me personally, my husband was really good about all of this stuff. He seems to take things kind of in stride, and I was kind of more emotional about it, just scared, wondering what was going to happen. Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? Are they going to be able to do something about it? When is this going to, all of this going to
Mhm.
come to a head? And I was, talking to my cousin in Panama. My mom's sister is my oldest living relative in Panama, and she's 86, sorry, 87. And I was scared for her. And they couldn't, they had stricter lockdown. They were locked down before we were in
Yeah.
Panama,
Yeah.
and they had stricter, and but I think that was their debt. That was the bad part of it, is they got locked down so early that people started getting too loose with the restriction, loosening up the restrictions too soon, and it got really bad there too. It's still not great, but they're all vaccinated at my cousin's house. My aunt and her are both vaccinated.
Okay. And what about your neighbors? Do you know how it affected them? Did you talk to them? Did you talk to your neighbors?
Yeah. I don't know that anybody really talked about how they felt, except for they wanted to go somewhere, and they didn't feel like they could, unless it was to the grocery store or, something, a medical emergency or something like that. It wasn't, and actually we just saw more of our neighbors. It's kind of sad, but that it took a pandemic for neighbors to get to know each other again, or at all. I mean, I've lived in this house 21 years,
Right, right.
and I barely knew one of my next door neighbors, and they had lived there before I got here.
Wow.
So it's just it's been interesting. I think that, and everybody was just trying to find something to do to keep busy and keep going, because we really didn't think it was going to last this long. Everybody thought it was going to be, 2 months, 2 weeks, maybe a month,
Hmm.
but not this long.
And you said you go to, you don't really go to church, but you're part of some organizations. How did COVID affect these organizations that you're a part
I
of?
think it has affected everybody. The inability to I mean, we've tried. I also have a rosary group that I belong to. That it's not an organization like per se, but a group of us that we get together once a month. Our motto is we're uh, a drinking group with a praying problem, and
I like that.
yeah, so we get together once a month, and it was difficult for us to do that because some of us don't do well with the Zoom thing. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but some of the other people just it wasn't for them. Watching people, talking to people, listening to people on Zoom, it just they don't get that personal feeling. I think that was probably um, difficult, not being able to meet. Oh my God, not being able to hug. That's been the worst for me. The worst. I
Mhm.
had we went to, so this summer, is it okay if I tell a story?
Of course.
Okay. So this all last summer and into the fall, and we would, as an organization, we would gather. Girls Inc. was was getting a grant to buy um, paper products like toilet paper, um, uh, paper towels, wipes, disinfectant, soap, those kind of things to give out to the community members that didn't have the means to buy this stuff all the time. Um,
I was part of that drive actually to like,
oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we there was a couple of us that have a bigger car or a truck. So we would go and pick up all the supplies for the families at Big Brothers Big Sisters that we had, that we were
Mhm.
going to supply for. And the last time, one of the last times that we did that, there was another girl that I had not seen in 10 months. I mean, I saw her in Zoom and that was it. And she knew that I had already had COVID. And she looked at me and she goes, Olga, can I please hug you? And I said, "Yeah, you've had COVID, right?" And I said, yeah. She goes, can I hug you? And I said, sure. She had had it too. And it was the best hug. I can't
Oh.
even tell you how great it felt. I mean, and not just because I love Genevieve, because she's a great person, but because it made, we just cried. I mean, it was really, it's for people like me who are really touchy feely. This was horrible. I mean,
Mhm.
we went, the first time I went over to my friend's house, and I mean, her dad has Alzheimer's, and I shouldn't say has Alzheimer's, but he has some dementia. And he kept wanting to hug me. He wanted to give me a kiss because he's known me for 40 some years. He gave me away at my wedding because my dad was already gone. Um, and he didn't understand why I wouldn't let him touch me. Because, you try, how do you explain that to somebody who will
Right.
remember in 5 minutes, but an hour later won't.
Right.
It's just it was really, that was really difficult.
Oh, yes, it was very hard time for many people, for everyone. And specifically with the Latino community, what has been your experience at COVID? What was the effect of COVID in the Latino community in Omaha?
I think that it was kind of you know I work with a lot of people that either don't have a way of that they're not technology savvy, and
Hmm.
everything comes through technology, and they didn't have like a news channel that at the time. Now we do. We have Telemundo here in Omaha, and they have a news a news, not station, but an hour or something where they do the news in Spanish. But at the beginning, I don't think that existed, and it was difficult because they were only getting what they would hear. And you know how it is. You start a chain, you say one thing, and it changes. By the time you get to 5 people down or 10 people down, the whole story's changed, and
Hmm.
you don't know, and they don't know what to believe or who to believe.
Hmm.
So I think it's been That's probably why it's been a little more difficult in in Latino community to get people vaccinated, to get them understand, to wear masks, to wash your hands, to stay away from other people, because we're not used to that. That's not the way we are. And but I think that there are people in the community that have, tried to move heaven and earth to get people to understand what's going on.
Yeah. And how have the organizations that you're part of, and you can talk about Big Brother, Big Sisters, but also, um, the Chamber of Commerce, how have they provided resources to the Latino community during COVID?
Yeah, I think that a lot of them, the majority of them, have either tried to do something where they've provided ongoing help in terms of, sanitary products or information on where to go, where to get it.
Right.
They've tried to set up food drives. I mean, that has been probably un. I worked a lot at. I would go to South High on Thursdays, like I think it's the second and fourth Thursday of every month. They were doing uh, food drives for kids who are in the backpack program.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with the backpack program?
Not really, no.
So the backpack program is each school identifies kids that don't have appear to not be getting enough food at home, and so they send them home with a backpack full of food over the weekends. Well, when school stopped, I mean, as for some kids, this was the only food they were getting during on the weekends because they weren't in school.
Oh,
So then they started these drives where they notified all the backpack parents to come through. And then, I mean, we would do 300, 300 to 400 cars on any given Thursday and at the South High parking lot, where and everything was coordinated. The food bank had, they had milk, bread, fruits, vegetables. It's not a ton, but it was something.
absolutely. Absolutely. And do you know if the organizations are helping in the vaccination distribution or any help with telling people about vaccines?
Well, I know that Milpa had actually just last night had a town hall where they tried to get people to come to listen to their immunologists at UNMC that were on that spoke Spanish.
Mhm.
And they did it all in Spanish. So, it answered all any questions, tried to do away with any myths that people might have had about the vaccine or what it was going to cause or not cause, or people are scared, and rightfully so. The Black and brown communities in this country have not been treated very well when it comes to vaccines or testing of drugs. Excuse me. So
Yes.
I do understand the hesitancy. So it's important for people that look like them and that can be trusted to get out and say, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah. Thank you. And I mean, very, very important. Yeah. And the current social movements, in conjunction with COVID-19. So, if you remember the protests last year for the BLM movement, how did that affect your daily life, if at all?
Um, I just didn't know what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know. I, I, it's not that I didn't agree with with what was the movement. What I didn't agree with was the destruction of personal property,
Hmm.
of private property of people, no matter who they were.
Hmm.
Um, I think that was I think that and what I don't understand is how people don't know that this was probably an isolated group of people. You're going to have those kind of people in any situation, on your side or on the other side. It doesn't matter, who are just trying to take advantage of something that distracts people from um, keeping an eye out for their things. I mean, those are just opportunist people. That was the only thing that bothered me, is that there was that it, when was it going to stop? How was it going to stop? What was it going to take? Is it going to change? I mean, it just, there's so, there's, it's just so much. Sometimes I just don't even know, how can this all be? I don't know.
No, that makes sense. And now let's talk about your work a little bit. So, how has COVID impacted your work? For example, did you lose work? Did you get a? Unfortunately, some people have not only lost their jobs, but then when they went back, they had a pay cut. They were furloughed. Did any of that impact you?
Yeah, I was furloughed for 2 months
Oh
um,
gosh.
last summer. But you know what? They asked for volunteers to get furloughed from our organization. We needed to have 3, and it just so happened that the 3 people that got furloughed were the oldest ones there in chronological age. But it made sense. I mean, not that any of this makes sense, but it made sense for us to do it because we have the majority of the people that work in our agency are young 20s and 30-year-olds. They're single people, or they're single parent, or they're, this is, how could I possibly not, I mean, my husband makes a good living, and I can afford to do that. I could afford not to work for 2 months. Did I want to? No, but it wasn't gonna do me in. You know what I mean? It wasn't gonna stop me from paying my mortgage. It wasn't gonna stop me from, having food, and keeping a roof over my head. So
Right.
um, it was okay. It was fine. And
And
um,
and then you went back to your original job.
mhm,
Was that easy? Was that an easy process?
mhm, because nothing was happening. I mean, over those 2 months, nothing happened. I mean, we weren't doing, we weren't making match. My job is to interview kids. We didn't know how we were going to do that over Zoom.
Right.
Some parents don't, they don't have technology, or they can't afford to have Wi-Fi in their home. All they have is a telephone. Was it going to work on a telephone for the kids? I mean, we were hearing all these stories about how the kids couldn't do their homework because of they weren't prepared for what this stoppage of school. And a lot of the kids that I work with are probably less apt um, to do their work when they're not in school, or to pay attention when they're not in school. So
Yeah.
it was difficult. It wasn't until August that we started putting together, trying to figure out a plan on how to interview and start doing, and then how do you match these people. I mean, it's COVID. They can't go anywhere together. So, or we don't want them to go anywhere together. We don't want them to get, it's just a lot of stuff. It's been very difficult. And we've lost a lot of revenue, I think, because of it.
And so, about finances personally, did you have concerns about finances? You said not really when you were furloughed because your husband could contribute, but did you have any other concerns about finances or money?
To be honest with you, no. I mean, we were allowed to collect unemployment plus the 600 a week. I mean, that was it. There wasn't, I mean, I didn't realize that until after we had the agreement. I mean, I thought I was just going to go, if I was just going to be file for unemployment, and that would be that. I mean, if I could get something, I didn't know how that whole thing was going to work. And then it was fine. I mean, there wasn't, um, I didn't have to worry about, I mean, at least, I mean, we don't have a huge house. I mean, it's not like we have, a $500,000 home, or 3 cars, or, vacation homes and things like that. We're just an average family, and it's just the 2 of us and the dog. At the time it was 2 dogs, but
But nothing changed like in the way that you lived or that
We
you
just didn't
treated the
spend
dogs.
anything. No, we didn't spend anything because there wasn't anything to spend anything on. I mean, except for food, we would go and get our food. Sometimes, oh, well, no, that's not true. I gotta be honest. I became addicted to QVC.
Uh, oh, that's interesting that you mentioned that because actually a lot of people started spending more because they were so bored and anxious during the
Mhm.
pandemic. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I didn't I had, I mean, I have ordered, I'd seen that those stations on and off for years. It's not anything new, but when you're sitting at home and it's cold and you can't go out and water you've watered the grass, or you can't go and water the grass, or the new plants that we put in because there wasn't anything else to do. I mean, I'd never, anyway, I would sit there and watch, you can only watch so many TV shows. So sometimes I would switch to QVC, and I'd just get sucked in, it just, oh my gosh, that looks great. Oh, I gotta have those shoes. Those shoes look great. Or I mean, it was, I finally cut myself off of that. The only time I've gone back is over Christmas, because we bought Christmas presents for my nieces and nephews, um, here and in Wisconsin, and did what little Christmas stuff that we did this year. We did it all on Amazon or HSN or QVC. But I mean, at first it was every day. My husband said to me one day, "It sure must be good to be rich." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You get a package every day." He didn't get mad
Oh,
at me. He
right.
wasn't, but and because I wasn't like spending thousands of dollars, but I mean, it could have, I can see how people get sucked into that, and they think they have to have everything that's on there, when in fact, back away. You probably, anyway, so
But
that was,
this is something that I've read in the news and that I've read there's research on that it happened to a lot of people, not just with QVC, but with Amazon or eBay.
well, it's because you
But
feel like you need that. You're not getting any gratification. You're not getting anything. You're not feeling anything, because you're just with, my husband was working. I mean, he was here, but he was working, and I was just watching TV. I mean, I didn't have to work. I wasn't working, and it was just, especially after Lou passed, I didn't have anything else to do. It So I shopped, and it made me feel better.
did the way that you interacted with the puppies, with the dogs, did that change during the pandemic? Like the way you
Uh,
walk them, or did you stop walking them, or?
no, we walked them more, probably. Well, not Lou, because he couldn't go for a walk, but Peanut, she got a lot, at least Clark walks her at least once a day. During last summer, she got walked 2 or 3 times a day,
Oh, wow.
and because he would need to get out of the house and get some air. She went on vacation with us. We went on vacation last year, and the only place we could go was to South Dakota, because we we didn't want to go anywhere where we had to be inside, and to go to the Badlands, or to go to Mount Rushmore, or to go to um, Custer State Park. Those are all things that you either stay in your car, or you get out. You're outside, and there wasn't a whole lot of people around, so it worked out really well. And she came with us, and she was fine.
Good. And so when you went back to work, did your duties change once okay, you got furloughed for 2 months, then you go back? Like, did your work change when you arrived again?
Well, it's nothing that I haven't had it done before, and it's still changing. Like, even before this, just before this call, I was talking to one of the directors of at the agency, that said, do you think you can pick up this work, because I don't know that we're going to be hiring anybody for this position that's got to move over here. And I mean, I'm just doing more enrollment. I'm doing more enrollment of kids who are English speaking. I'm doing enrollment for bigs that are not necessarily Latino, and I'm doing match support for matches that are not Spanish speaking. And it's because we just can't afford to hire anybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's switch gears now. We got to healthcare. So I know you mentioned that you got COVID, and I want to hear all about that story first before I get into the questions. So, would you mind telling us a little bit about how was that experience for you? What happened, and how did it go?
So we had a, so I'm not exactly sure where I got it. I think that it was one of two places. On Halloween on October 31st, it was the first time since March that we had an outdoor activity, not the agency, but the South Omaha Southeast Precinct had what they have every year, which is called a meet and treat, and it's usually at the precinct, but this time we did it at a vacant parking lot in South Omaha, and the kids, the parents had to drive the kids around this maze, and there was like 5 or 6 stops where candy was handed out, and we had it in trays. We were outside, but we wore masks. There was another girl that is Spanish speaking and Hispanic at the agency who came to help me because I was at one of the tables handing out candy, and her little, she's matched. My little decided not to come, which is probably a good thing. So it's either there or one of my best friends had his mother passed away, and I went to the wake on Monday night, and the burial was on Tuesday, and the luncheon was outside. So I thought, okay, how bad can this be? We're all going to be outside eating lunch. It's not like so by that was Tuesday. By Wednesday, I already wasn't feeling that well, but I didn't know what it was. I wasn't sure, I thought it was my allergies. I kept thinking it's allergies. So Thursday, I woke up, I took some allergy medicine. I kind of felt a little bit better. And then Friday, Maria called and said that she had tested positive for COVID. She was at the meet and treat. I went, oh geez. And then about 2 hours later, my friend Joe's wife, Mary Beth, who's Joe's mom's the one that passed away, called me and said, Olga, you need to go get tested. There's been 6 people that were at the funeral that have COVID now. I went, great. So Saturday, I made an appointment. I went and got tested, and I still thought I had some kind of allergy or sinus infection or something. That's the only thing I could. It was a pain here and a pain here and a pain here. It wasn't all over my head, and I didn't have any coughing. I didn't have any chest problems, nothing like that. And on Monday morning, I woke up and I realized that I couldn't taste or smell. And about 10 minutes later, my phone rings, and it's the COVID people the testing people letting me know that I had COVID, which I knew because the minute that I couldn't taste or smell anything, I knew it was not, I knew I had it.
And then what happened? It went away.
No, not for probably almost 3 weeks. But my symptoms were, I was just tired, fatigued. I was tired all the time. I mean, I only worked half days um, that those first 2 weeks because I couldn't. I just physically, all I wanted to do was sleep. I was tired and nauseous. Oh my gosh, nauseous all the time. Yeah, not enough I don't like throwing up, so not enough to make me throw up, but it would just be nauseous. I mean, it would just it was, and I couldn't smell or taste anything, and so that went on. My taste, my that went on for, like I said, about 2.5 weeks. My sense of taste came back first, probably about 3 weeks after I first got it, and my sense of smell probably a month and a half after. I still couldn't smell anything. And still now I just realized that probably in the last couple of weeks, I smell, even after I got my smeller back, I could smell things. Like every day I would go up to the perfume and put it up to my nose and see, can I smell it? No, okay, so I still don't have it. And then slowly but surely it came back. But then I also would smell things that nobody else smelled. I mean, and people ask, what does it smell like? I said, I don't know. I thought it was turmeric because to me it smelled like something, some kind of a pungent spice, something that was real. But then my friend Martha said, here, this is turmeric, smell it. And I smelled it. Well, no, that's not it. So I don't know how to describe it. Some people say that it's like a wet metal, but I don't know if that's it. But I've had it less and less in the last couple, probably 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't smelled it very much, which is good. And I still have, every once in a while, I get nauseous.
Are you able to smell the perfume now?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Well, hopefully
Yeah.
everything goes back to normal. It must be terrible.
I,
But
I
I'm glad that you didn't have, I mean, although you had a bad case, I'm glad that you didn't have.
Oh no, Clark and I were thankful. He got it a week later, and all that he'd had, the only symptoms he had were at like around noontime, he'd come upstairs and he'd say, I don't feel very good. I said, what's wrong? Because I have a headache and I'm tired. I said, well, take a couple of Tylenol. He would take a couple of Tylenol. And I said, lay down, take a nap. And he would sleep for about an hour, hour and a half, get up, and he'd be fine. He did that 4 days in a row, and then he was done.
Oh,
That was the
wow.
extent of his COVID experience.
Wow. Well, it's not good to have COVID, but that's easier than most people.
Hey, I was just thankful that,
Right.
I mean, if we have to get it, not being in the hospital and not being on a respirator, that was, you know,
Yeah.
I considered that a win.
But overall, how do you think this is changing the way we're doing healthcare as a society? Or that you think it's going to change the way we're doing healthcare in America?
Um, I don't know that we're changing I don't know that we're changing anything. I mean, look at, it's the same with the guns. I mean, we every day somebody's going into somewhere and shooting up people with a rifle they shouldn't. What is the purpose of having that particular gun? I mean, and I thought when they killed those 23 kids and up in whatchamacallit, in the
Colorado?
Northeast. No, up in sunny, no. Oh, what is the name of that place? Those kids that were in that
Oh, and that's
elementary
cool.
school. Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. It's not Columbine. It's
no,
I
that's
know what you're.
Colorado. It's I can't think of it.
I know, me too. It's in 2012. It was
One of my friends is that used to work at Big Brothers Big Sisters. She was in that school district when that happened. She was just out of college, and she is a big anti-gun proponent. And they're I mean, when that happened, I thought, okay, now we're gonna see some type of change, because people can't see that and not say we have to do something. But here we are, almost 10 years later, and nothing's changed. Nothing. I mean, there's still people going out. It's even worse, going out and shooting people. And I know that a lot of it has got to do with mental health, but we're never going to, but until we stop stigmatizing people with mental health issues, nothing's going to change. And
yeah.
and I think that some people say the right things, like we got to give more money to mental health, but those are the same people that don't want to increase the budget, or don't want, or per, not personal, private organizations are going to come up and make the call. No, I just I don't know. I would like to see, people shouldn't have to pay, $700 a dose for some medication that they need a day. I mean, that's just the cost of pharmaceuticals is outrageous. I'm not saying that people shouldn't make money, they have a business, they want to make money, but how much, I mean, insurance companies, they're not losing a dime. This doesn't cost them anything. They, you don't want to get me started. It's just,
No, but I see I see what you mean, and it's I like what you said about I don't know that we're changing anything in healthcare. Because the question is, how do you think this is affecting the way we're doing healthcare? And your answer is it's not affecting it. It's nothing's changing.
no, nothing is changing. Just because we came up with a vaccine and just because they're paying for everybody to get the shot, great. But that's not the only thing. There's so many healthcare issues in this country, especially among the neediest people. They can't even get they can't even get the simplest um, medication because they just don't. I mean, it's that or they eat. What do you do? And it's like I told my husband, if something catastrophic happens to me, just let me die. Because I mean, I have insurance and it's pretty good considering I work for a nonprofit. They tried their hardest to do what they can, you know. But at the end of the day, if you have a catastrophic um, uh, accident or illness, you still have to pay 20%. 20% of $2 million is a lot of money. And I don't want to work the rest of my life to pay off a doctor and a hospital. So just let me die. that's that's what it's come to because it's too expensive to live. Sorry, I'm getting a
Yeah,
little
and
worked up.
and like you said, like you have insurance,
And
right?
I have
Like
insurance.
and let's talk about those people who let's talk about access to healthcare. You mentioned some people, the neediest people for whom access is much harder. How do you think COVID has affected that access? Or do you have any stories of people who've had trouble seeing a doctor or having access to healthcare during COVID, or
Well, I
Latinos?
mean, I have a lot of kids who have ADHD or have some other mental health issue that haven't been able to see a counselor. They haven't been able to see their psychiatrist or their therapist in months, maybe over a year. Excuse me, because they don't have access to technology in order to do, or the doctor isn't doing Zoom calls, or their ability to get to the place is at the times that the doctors are available. I mean, those are serious things. These kids, they can't afford to not be seen. I mean, this is how these kids fall through the cracks because there isn't a time or an availability for them to continue. That continuous care isn't there. It stops. Nobody thinks about those kids.
Yeah, that's sad.
It is
Um,
sad.
um, and now let's talk about something a little happier, but that's still not super happy because we're still talking about COVID. But how did COVID affect your ability to gather with your family? So you said you stopped seeing your sister for a long time. How long?
Well, probably it was probably July, August before we got together. July probably because we just wanted to make sure that Henry was out of the woods, that there wasn't any, and that we weren't gonna, that we had been isolated enough so that we could could, could see each other. And we didn't really touch each other, but at least share a meal, something. We were just too scared. We didn't have Thanksgiving together this year. Well, that was because we got notified on the 7th of November that we had COVID. My husband's mother passed away in January, and they come to Nebraska. His sister and his mom, or his sister, his brother-in-law, and his niece, all four of them come to Nebraska for Thanksgiving every year. They have Thanksgiving with us. They didn't come this past 2020, and then Jane, his mom, passed away in January. So it was really sad that we didn't have that opportunity to have that time with her.
Yeah. And what about colleagues and friends? Olga, like, did you see any colleagues in person at all? Friends? No.
Not until probably, I'm trying to think. I don't think I saw anybody till I went back to work. Well, that's not true. So Jeannie and Diana and I, the three that were furloughed, we would get together for lunch once a month. But we sat at a table. We didn't, we were masked until our food came, or if we could, we picked a place that was outside. We just didn't, other than that, I didn't see anybody else that I worked with. I stopped going to the gym. I've gained 20 pounds. I'm just started going back to the gym 3 weeks ago after I got my first shot. Because I have bad knees and I need to get I have to get a knee replacement, but I can't do it until I lose some weight. So.
And so you stopped going to the gym also for a long time during COVID.
392 days. That's what they told me when I walked in that
first
day.
Oh, wow. Wow.
They said, you haven't been here for 392 days. I kept paying my gym membership, but they said, we can't believe that you kept up the membership. And I said, well, I figured I was going to come back eventually. I just didn't know when.
Yeah, well, it's good you came back. And so you did your first shot and your second of the vaccine?
Yep. Last week on Wednesday. So as of today, technically, I'm 10 days after the second shot. So
how would you say in general the attitude of Latinos towards the vaccine in your circle has been? Positive, negative, skeptical?
In my circle?
Yeah.
It's been positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And encouraging everybody to get the shot.
Okay.
Encouraging, yeah, everybody, even the high schoolers are excited about getting the shot. Yeah.
Good. And when you leave your house, has your family changed the way, like, what you take with you when you leave your house? Like, do you make sure you always have your mask, or do you have a protocol of things that you take with you now when you leave your house?
Well, I mean, I think that started back last year. I mean, each one of our cars has disposable masks, a package of disposable masks extra in our car. We have wipes, the Clorox wipes. Every car has a spray can of Lysol, and we have I have on my keychain. This is my my hand sanitizer. So my husband has one, my sister has one, my friends have one. So that if and the first thing we do when we walk in the door is wash our hands. That's not something that I can honestly say I did before. But we do now. I probably don't wash my hands as often as I did at the beginning. I mean, every 5 minutes we were washing. It was, you just didn't know. You weren't sure of what was happening or how it was going to happen. So, but yeah, we do we have upstairs in the basement on the main floor of the house, we have hand sanitizer, antiseptic spray. When somebody's been in the house that, I don't know, I spray, I wipe down. That doesn't happen very often, but we do that because I wear gloves at the gym.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, I mean,
Taking all the precautions.
yeah. They give us a spray bottle when we walk in, and they have, sanitizer everywhere and stuff that you can, so you can clean. And I still clean the machines and stuff when I'm done. But I mean, I don't know if everybody does that, so I wear my gloves.
Great. So is there anything you would like to share with me about COVID-19 that you have not talked about, Olga, before we finish?
I, um, um, this year, I mean, I don't know if it's because of COVID or it's because of everything that happened last summer, all the in all the social issues that we had to deal with last summer and that we're still dealing with. Make me really, part of me is really sad because I waited, like I said, I'm a late bloomer in everything I do, and I mean everything. um it's just like it's like I have to wait until I see that it's okay before I do something, or at least I used to. I don't know that I'm so much like that anymore, but I didn't realize there's so much work that needs to be done. And in the area of healthcare, I don't think that this pandemic is a one and done. I think that we're going to see this again, hopefully not in my lifetime. I mean, I hope that I'm dead. I don't want to do this again with no hugging. And I don't want to be old 20 years from now. I mean, really old, and then not be able to touch anybody. Or I mean, I've seen one of my girlfriend's moms. She has dementia and she's in a home here, and she's really gone down. She really went downhill when they stopped allowing people to come in, and they could only see her on a phone. It's been awful for Charlotte. They just started in-person visits like 2 weeks ago, and just her attitude, the color of her face has just changed. It's just sad that she's endured this past year. She lost so much weight. Oh my God, she wouldn't eat. It was the confusion that she had. It's been awful for those people. I just there's just so much to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't know if we have enough people that want to help do, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense, and I think it's really interesting. You're not the first one to say this about specifically Latinos, that we're people of contact, and that we don't want to do this again. We need
No.
contact to feel good, and we're humans. First of all, humans need contact, but especially Latinos, we're socialized and we grew up in societies where contact and
Well,
touching people.
one of the things that we talked about last night on that town hall, or that they mentioned, is part of the problem is you want to get the word out. You want everybody to vaccinate, but they need to understand that this isn't a panacea. Nothing's going to get cured by this. So you have to still wear your mask, and they want to gather, and they want to hug, and they want to touch. And, is that the right thing? I don't know. I mean, we have to be careful, and I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Olga. I think this concludes our interview. This was a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving us your time on a Friday afternoon. If there are any questions, I will email you. Any follow-up or anything comes up, we will let you know. But this was
Okay.
really, really nice.